All right, we're back, everyone, for the second afternoon session here. My name is Nicholas Loubere. I'm associate professor at Lund University in the Center for East and Southeast Asian Studies. It's really a pleasure to be here. I've already been enjoying myself in Melbourne quite a bit, so thank you very much for having me. It's also a pleasure to be chairing this session on discrepancy and division. So I think we can just get right to it, and I'm just going to give a plea to the presenters. Please stick to time. Since you're not next to me, I have no control over you. So 12 to 15 minutes max, please. I think we're at the point of the afternoon where people are ready to ask questions, discuss, have some interaction. So let's do this, okay? 12 to 15 minutes tops. I will introduce the presenters, and then I would just ask, can you give just a 1 or 2 sentence introduction of yourself so we know who you are? You're going to do it better than I am. So do we start with Yu Hong? Yeah? And Yiran Wei. So yeah, welcome. I'll hand it over to you if you're there. Yeah, okay, great. So yeah, looking forward to the presentation.
Okay, hi. Hello everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Yiran Wei. A doctoral student at Zhejiang University, College of Media and International Culture. So I'm glad to have this opportunity to be here and to present our recent work. So shall I start our presentation?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you. Give me a minute. I will share the slides. Okay. Can you see the slides?
Yep.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So on behalf of Professor Yu Hong, I would like to I will try to keep my presentation brief and to allow the discussion. Maybe I believe Professor Yu Hong would be happy to share something in discussion, maybe. Yes, and as a preliminary study, so we look forward to your comments. First of all, the background of this study is in the context of building so-called digital China. Over 500 cities in China have claimed that they have deployed the city brain in the last few years to support their local government reforms aimed at improving governance efficiencies. City brain is a signature smart infrastructure system comprised of big data, cloud computing, algorithms, and artificial intelligence. However, the potential problem with automatic decision-making technology is that it subordinates social governance to technopolitics, especially the one-size-fits-all created by prioritizing ADM system judgment diminishes the policy elasticity of social management. In light of mediation theories and infrastructure studies that emphasize human elements of the autonomous system, we raised the following empirical questions. How do people react to this predicament when ADM systems are in sync with the big government? And what sociotechnical gateway have emerged for social disagreements in China? So as Hangzhou is the first city to propose the concept of city brain, we use Hangzhou as a case to trace two processes of constructing of this sociotechnical complex. One is the negotiation of state-capital relationship that often hidden from the public. And another is whether public feedback on this architecture and social participation would create unexpected results, and how. So these two processes actually constitute what we call the state-led participatory model. As the problems of ADM system that I have mentioned before was especially notable during the COVID-19, we outlined the practice of Hangzhou City Brain in facing COVID-19 briefly, and then illustrate how the group response of citizens unintentionally accelerates the transition of traditional media to compensate for the deficiencies of the intelligence system as an active participant of collaborative governance. So if you look at this graph, you will see the city brain is organized in a tree-like structure technically. The ultimate shape of this sociotechnical architecture is yet to be known, but three chains are already salient. First is artifacts configuration. While rebuilding Chinese cities and urban regions are becoming the test bed for key digital technology, Hangzhou government leveraged the building of regional industry chain by exploiting urban spatial and data resources. And the place on the picture you can see is Yunxi Town, Yunxi Xiaozhen, a local economic platform where the majority of tech firms involved in development of Hangzhou City Brain are clustered here. It should be noted that these tech firms are almost entirely as a local or regional enterprises. And by taking advantage of City Brain's construction, these regional companies have formed industry islands and have reaped the lion's share of procurement contracts under the organization of mega tech enterprises, especially Alibaba. So second, the City Brain project hinged upon close partnership between the state and private firms, but it also opens up an interactive space for social arrangement for renegotiate state capital relationship. The partnership has many phases, and the first one we need to stress is an interdepartmental coordination mechanism named Zhanban. Now, over 60 Zhanban have been established in Yunxi Town to work collaboratively among government agencies, research organizations, and technology enterprises. So that means the government is no longer just the non-technical client or supervisor, but one of the brains behind the project. And the current company operating City Brain is a joint venture between the municipal government and Alibaba, nearly 50-50. But on the top of that, the central state has flexed its regulatory and lawmaking muscle to curb platform monopoly, algorithm abuse, and rights infringements. So as government and business spheres become increasingly intertwined and complex in local context, how the technology capital interests will affect governance remains a real question. And third, we look at some communicative practice that were remediated by this socio-technical process, but were overlooked when we talk about smart cities. In 2020, to manage the COVID-19 crisis, several ADM technology designed to check or control population movement have been integrated into City Brain system. Health code, 健康码, is the most visible interface amongst them, and encourage some automated data-driven communicative practice, such as scanning venue code, checking people's travel with mobile phone-based geolocation. And the public health measure was reduced to relying on big data to automatically determine whether individuals pose a risk of contagions. And however, in practice, the health code function as an electronic fence, requiring people to comply with certain local regulatory policies. And the health code appears to operate at the municipal level, but the decision right to assign or decode is held by the districts or the neighborhood committees. So the algorithmic arbitration decision planted a seed of people's grievance on this system. On the other hand, the feelings of machine rendering the local traditional media engaged in negotiating the formation process of the automated system. 都市快报 is a federal metropolitan media in Hangzhou with large user base and public trust since the era of news hotline. At the beginning of health code's implementation, over 15,000 questions was received by the administration each day, and many citizens in Hangzhou choose to refer their concerns through 都市快报's feedback column. And this has led the media not just regularly explain the policy change to the public through its daily news, but it also became one of the formal channel for appeals of health code in Hangzhou. So, but most importantly, what we have noticed is that 都市快报 also play a key role in coordinating and organizing social resources in response to emergency during the COVID-19, and it has evolved into a comprehensive platform that possesses the capacity for organization and improvisation in providing public service. So a journalist from 都市快报 told us actually they were unsure whether the journalism could successfully assist the public in addressing the difficulties people faced during the epidemic by reflecting the public sentiments and engaging with the government. But their channels are kept open to allow people to voice their feelings and needs, lets them know that there is a means to communicate with the authorities. So what can we see from this case is when city brings tentacles infiltrate people's daily life, some traditional communicative practice are activated and remediated. Also, the city brain system has acknowledged the role of traditional media in social governance. Hangzhou City Brain has launched a platform on its application that aggregates various outlets for public opinion. For example, when people post complaints on 都市快报's app, the City Brain can crawl and process them synchronously to identify the local problems that requires immediate resolutions or anticipate potential conflicts through the condensed public opinion to generate preventive plans. Okay, so let me quickly summarize. As Western political economy of communication argues that the state-led is the main approach of smart city development in China, we want to ask, what does the state-led mean, and how does it affect communication power? So the making of City Brain demonstrates the state-led participatory model of mediated social governance. On the one hand, we see the state's practice to deepen ties with society and business through the market operated smart toolkits. And on the other hand, the former channels for public feedback and engagement on this intelligent automation system are instituted. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you, and I will turn it back to you.
Thank you very much. That was an excellent presentation, right on time. So now we can hand over to Han Tao. Can she share her screen now too, or? I've got the microphone here.
Hi, everyone. I'm just trying to share my slides now. Okay. Can I share this? Okay. Yeah, sure. Can you see the slides?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm gonna time myself for 12 minutes because I'm really bad at that. Just a quick a quick introduction to myself. I'm a postdoc at ITU Copenhagen, and I'm now at a project of called Moving Data, Moving People. It is about the kind of the digital and technology part of social credit system in China. So now I'm, because I have an anthropology background, so I'm more interested in like the human activity and social relation also taking place at the technology, especially like ADM. So during my fieldwork in China at this moment, when I talked to the senior bank officers, the small business loan applicants, and the fintech consultant, I learned about the emergence or the practice of packaging agencies, 包装中介, and I thought that is a very interesting example of like the human activities or social relationship taking in relation and also around ADM technology. And also I'm proposing, thanks to my project like Jesper and Rachel, if you're here, the idea of bypassing ADM. So before I go into introduce the 包装中介 packaging agency, I'm just gonna say some words about the ADM in digital finance in China. So obviously it is being used. It has been used in various private and public sectors, and especially in the finance in the industry, it is like many researchers in Europe and in Euro-American and in Asian societies, they argue that the ADM technology can improve the lender's credit risk management efficiency and enable the customer in hard-to-reach area like rural areas, and also the disadvantaged social groups to borrow money in a quick and contact-free manner. So one example, especially in China, is the big tech credit loan. So when we talk about ADM when we talk about the innovative and inclusive product, we will always think about the Sesame Credit by Alipay, by Alibaba, or Jingdong, the Jingdong Jingtiao, or the WeChat Pay. So if you open any app in China now, you can see like you can get quick loans, these kind of things. It is kind of, so they are based on, or at least they are believed to be based on the big data, the customer's big data, rather than collateral asset. And on the other hand, the banking sector is often regarded as the more traditional financial institutions, which have been catching up with the digital transformations and financial inclusion. So how does that help the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise, small business, or I will call MSMEs later. So the big credit, even they are very innovative, they are usually in small amount, short durations, and only for personal use. So the small business or micro entrepreneurs, they often suffer for significant credit constraints, and they lack of social network 关系 with the bank officers and market discrimination. Therefore, they also always have to turn to other funding resources. So very few of them can actually get bank loans because they always find out they must have a local housing property. And also they lack the comprehensive financial credit data, which they don't really know what these are. And the bankers I talked with, they also said to me that the financial credit agency is only like an entry point. It's definitely far from enough for them to assess the credibility of loan applicants, especially for for the business loans. So for most banks, the credit risk, the risk evaluation and loan approval process are much more complicated and time-consuming. And still, they rely on the loan officer's personal ability and personal experience, and they rely on the loan applicant's collateral assets for the credit risk assessment. So in this sense, what can the technology done to them? So the state in the recent years, so including like the SCS, they also under the SCS, and the state initiated the kind of digital lending platform that will collect and integrate the social credit information, for example, in addition to the financial credit database. So they believe that, so they encourage actually the banks to use digital technologies to innovate and to increase the MSME loans. So even though the banks don't like the idea of online credit loan especially to the small business, they have to do that. So for the bank's perspective, the small business usually die within 3 to 5 years in China. So which means they cannot get the money back, and it become bad debts for them. So, but they are heavily influenced by the financial inclusion policy. So they have to do that. So just breathing very quickly. So I may just go back later. So this is the kind of credit massive reality, maybe massive factor of credit data they have right now to assess the credibility. And in that context, the packaging agency kind of emerged as very unregulated and outside the banking system. So they are often portrayed as black intermediary that trapped desperate loan applicants. But despite the bad reputation for them, many people still choose to use packaging agencies as they have no better option. So these kind of packaging agency, they can beautify or they can fake the education, marriage, car ownership, job, revenue report, company information for their clients. And I will first give a case about Shen. As he told me, the agencies have very close relationship 关系 with banks, and they can matchmake the loan product and loan applicants. The agencies will first do a credit check of the client first and of their business, and then they will select the best loan product for the clients. So, but 20 years ago, what Shen was most afraid of was that he failed to get rapport and trust from the bank officers. But as the banking sector become more regulated or standardized today, he faced different challenges. So Shen have applied for several quick internet loan before. So his Zhenxing report is not so pretty, and he failed to apply for the business loan several times. And then his friend recommended he packaging agency. And after that, the packaging agency matchmake good loan product, like business product from Shen. So eventually he received the 1 million RMB loan. So again, in 2020, his wife again used the same agencies to get money. So for them, the agencies took care of not only their credit document, their credit data, but also the relationship with the banks. Because nowadays, the bank officers do not stay in the position forever. And the next case of Deng is more shows more explicitly that the banks themselves may work with the packaging agencies directly. So Deng is 40 years old. She has no job at the moment, and she knows 2 officers and the president of a bank branch very well. They through playing sports game. So they are friends for more than 10 years. In 2020, Deng wanted to buy a flat, like a big flat in the city. So she applied for the loans with the informal approval with the bank officers. But normally she would not be eligible to apply for the housing mortgage because of her jobs and family status. Then the loan officer, Tong, suggested her, so because you needed a large amount of money, it was better if you apply as a MSME. So the Tong then recommended her a packaging agencies, like they trusted. And they said the only thing that cannot be fake is financial credit report. So they totally beautify or faked Deng's credit profile. And according to Tong, their bank department do not verify every piece of information because they're too time consuming. Also, Deng's husband was in the list of dishonest debtors. So he is a 失信被执行人 or 老赖. So the packaging agency also made a faked divorce certificate for Deng, so to prove that she is single, which she is actually not. So in this way, her husband's bad credit history would not affect his her loan application. Also, to be qualified for MSME loan, Deng need to have a company. So the preparation of company. For the preparation of our company, I included a card here. So she went to the office of her friend, put a white paper with a made-up name, and sent the paper to the packaging agency. The packaging agency made a more formal document, and then the loan application was passed by the end of the day. Then eventually received more than 1 million in 1 week. And she purchased the flat she wanted. And she owned flat which actually only was around half of the new flat were collateralized. And then she used the same agency to get a bogus company and to receive the following money, and also faked the revenue report and tax report. But her friends in the bank was not worried about, they are not worried that Deng couldn't pay in the time or left an empty company and a very old house to them. So they said, okay. So they said, sometimes being a debtor doesn't mean the person is not good. Once he has enough to go around, he will be fine. So what they mean? So because they know Deng for many years, he know about Deng's very luxury lifestyle, and Deng was always generous with them by treating them dinner and giving them gift. And also the bankers know that her husband's company owned a very well-known intellectual property that yet to be sold. So they kind of believed Deng's ability to pay back, even if the kind of financial credit data or the data or the automated risk control system will initially filtered her out. So I will skip the last one and just going. So to end my presentation today, I will just kind of ending with the idea of bypassing ADM. So obviously the loan applicant, the packaging agency, and even the banks themselves have their own motivation to bypass ADM. So I think that's will be a kind of an interesting place to start. And because I'm still in the field to collect data, I would be very interested to hear your question or what you want to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Fascinating paper, and I really look forward to talking about it tomorrow in the workshop as well. I found it really interesting. I got a chance to read the whole thing actually. So, yeah. Next up, we have the Haili, and I guess Genia is not here, so hand it over to Haili.
Okay. Can you see my slides?
Yep, sorry.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Haili. I'm currently working as a ERC postdoc research fellow at Freie University Berlin. The project co-authored by Genia and I will be presenting here today actually is part of our larger ERC project focusing on digital governance in China. So for this specific paper, we examine the great digital divide and digital inclusion in China. A very brief background introduction of our research. Driven by the continuously growing aging population and also the accelerated rapid digitalization, the age-based digital divide has became an increasingly prominent phenomenon and also social issue in the global context and also in China. So according to the statistics, China has already stepped into an aging society, plus its rapid and accelerated digitalization. And especially during the pandemic context, we have seen an increasingly number of cases, like the incidents, the cases that have gone viral on the Chinese social media platforms about what kinds of struggles, difficulties, and barriers that the Chinese elderly population have encountered and experienced in their everyday lives. For example, we have seen some news regarding a Chinese elderly citizen being rejected to enter a specific public space like a supermarket or like a bank, city hall, just because this person doesn't know how to scan and show the house code, the travel code, or the place code, all kinds of information. So all of this background actually highlights a pressing need to interrogate the age-based digital divide. And also the digital divide actually has also become a very important form of the broader range of digital inequalities, injustice, and unfairness, especially in a digital society. I will also briefly talking about the several leading objectives we have set up for this research. So they have also worked as the main questions for our paper. So first, we're going to discuss how the age-based digital divide has been represented and reflected in the Chinese elderly people's everyday lives, and also with regard to their everyday digital engagement, what kind of difficulties, obstacles, challenges they have encountered in their digital practices, and also how they have responded to these issues and how they have coped with this kind of undesirable and unexpected circumstances and issues. And also from the local governments and the central governments and also private sector's sides, we also discussed how the central and local governments combined with the commercial companies to make various forms of efforts to mitigate the great digital divide and to promote digital inclusion in China. And here is about our literature review. I will just very lightly touch upon it. So we have identified the three streams of literature that are closely connected with our research related to, for example, how the digital divide has been reflected in different countries, especially in the European context, which a lot of studies have already been focused on this, especially in the UK, in Germany, in Switzerland, and also in other European countries, and also in Asia, like in Korea, in Japan. Those societies has also started their aging society much longer than China, and also in Australia. And the second stream of research mainly focuses on the determinants and the barriers that have caused the digital divide, and also what kind of impacts and consequences the great digital divide have generated on people's everyday lives and also on the society as a whole. And the third stream of the research mainly focuses on the government science, like I have mentioned in the research objectives. And this research has mainly explored the strategies and the specific schemes, the tailored policies, and also practical measures, and also provide some implications for our own research. And talking about the methods we have employed for this paper, we employed a mixed method approach. So first, we did a comparative platform analysis of the elderly versions of the mobile apps and also online platforms in several categories, as I have suggested here. We mainly focus on these platforms' interface design, their infrastructure, functions, features, and how this different from the general versions of the apps, and how this try to cater to the elderly's needs. And also, so far, we have already finished 43 individual interviews and 4 focus groups. We have interviewed a mixed group of people, including the elderly participants, and we also talked to the volunteers and the managers of the NGOs and NPOs who actually provide a lot of services to the local elderly communities in terms of their digital learning and practices. And we also did the digital observation of how the elderly members communicate about their demands and their barriers and struggles within 2 WeChat groups. One of the WeChat group is established by a local residential committee, and the second one is established by an NPO. So we did this kind of digital observation. And the content analysis part is still ongoing. We try to build an archive, and we are collecting and analyzing all of the related policies, strategies, and also schemes and measures that are issued and implemented by the Chinese local and also central governments regarding how they try to address the digital divide and increase digital inclusion. And then I will talk about the 3 key findings we have summarized so far. So I will unpack the details of each finding. The first finding is related to the barriers and the difficulties our interviewees have encountered. So before talking about it, I have to note that almost all of our interviewees, no matter from the individuals or from the focus group interviews, they have all mentioned that COVID has played a really important role in exacerbating their anxiety, their fear, and also their pressure when it comes to digital participation. Because we all know that before the pandemic age, many things can be conducted offline, but because of the pandemic and also of the lockdowns, many things have been moved online. And for all of the elderly participants, they have to learn from scratch about how to engage with the QR code technologies like health code, travel code. Prior presenters have also mentioned a lot. And also they have to learn how to buy and pay the things online, and how to check and follow the latest information. So all of these practices have exacerbated their pressure in terms of the digital engagement. And some interviewees have also mentioned that it's really hard for them to fully understand the complicated functions when it comes to using a specific app and engage with some online activities. So the first types of barriers is related to the lack of the sufficient digital skills and capabilities, like I have mentioned before. And the second category of the difficulties is mainly related to the physical barriers, like the physical and health status of our elderly participants. Some of our participants have suffered severe eye problems, inflexibility, and also disabilities, and this actually hamper their digital learning process. And also the lack of motivations and interest in terms of the in-depth digital learning has also been reported as a big barrier, plus the emotional factors. Some interviewees have held a lot of fear, multiple concerns, and also frustrations regarding their learning of digital technologies. And the second finding is mainly related to the various perceptions and attitudes our interviewees have held and reported to us. So based on our understanding and interpretation of the interview transcripts, we have categorized them into a few different groups. So the first, we found that the first group of the interviewees, they hold a more optimistic perspective regarding digitalization, digital technologies, and their own digital learning. They are more self-motivated, and they have the strong desire to learn digital technologies to catch up with the digital trend. And they also strongly believe believe that digital technologies can solve a lot of problems in our everyday lives, and they believe that technology is a very imperative part of your everyday life. So you have to engage with and you have to learn. Otherwise, you cannot live a very good life. But compared to the first group of the participants, our second group of the participants hold a more pessimistic or more negative perspective. They perceive themselves as being largely left behind. Like some interviewees describe themselves as digital refugees to indicate the dilemma they have faced in terms of digital learning, and also show the attitude like let it rot. In Chinese is 摆烂. So many interviewees have mentioned that I have been old, like I have been left behind that much. I can't really catch up with the young people. So why don't I just stop here? I don't want to learn any new things. And we can also say that this group of interviewees, they hold a more negative opinions regarding the digitalization and also digital learning, and also show a strong sense of fear, reluctance, and also resistance towards digital practices. And we also have some other interviewees who have expressed very severe concerns regarding their individual, personal, like data safety and privacy. They're afraid of their personal information being leaked out. They're afraid of they might have the risks of being exposed to the digital frauds, scams. Especially some people have heard this from the news and have the friends who have been cheated online. And also they are worried about the fake information and the rumors that have been widely spreaded online, especially when it comes to their health, medicine, and the pandemic related stuff. And the last finding is about our policy analysis regarding the digital inclusion and also the gap we have identified. So first, we have found that the central and local governments in China actually have made a lot of various efforts combined with the private sectors, like some commercial companies, try to promote the digital inclusion in different regions. For example, I have listed a few examples here. Like the central government have issued some policies to work with the commercial companies to design and develop the elderly-oriented digital apps specifically to cater to the elderly's needs. So here is just a very brief example. This is a Chinese mobile banking app. The left part is a general version and the right part is an elderly version. So if you compare these two pictures, you can say that compared to the general version, the elderly version has a bigger font size, has a voice search function, and has some functions related to elderly's needs being added, and also has simpler function design and a clear interface. And the local governments have also provided some training opportunities to help the elderly to engage with their digital learning, like some workshops, some classes, and some one-on-one volunteer services. However, from our interviewee side, we find that our interviewees actually showed very limited awareness regarding this kind of digital inclusion efforts made by the governments. And also they themselves really engaged with this kind of digital inclusion practices. So this actually also provides some implications to the governments that if the governments wants to achieve better digital learning results, they might need to have a better reach out plan and try to reach out to more elderly people. And here is just a very brief summary of all of the main points I have mentioned before, like the role played by the pandemic in exacerbating the digital divide in China, and the main difficulties and barriers encountered by our interviewees, and also their varying perceptions and opinions towards digital learning, and also the very conspicuous digital reach out gap. And because this project is still ongoing, and we are still in the process of finalizing the findings and writing the final paper, so we welcome all of the questions and advice from you. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And yeah, a very relevant topic, I think, far beyond China. I can say from my own experience with my mother-in-law in cashless digital Sweden, I think it's something that you can really see actually in many different places. So thanks a lot. Okay, great. We've got some time for discussion, I think. So I will open the floor. I would just thank everyone for keeping to time. I think that's great. But I would also ask everyone here who wants to engage with these presentations, of course, you can ask individual questions for individual presentations, but I think it would perhaps be nicer if you can think about questions that kind of bridge across these three presentations, because there are intersecting themes there. But I leave it up to you. So I'll open the floor up now. Oh yeah, here's the
question just to Yiran.
It's all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yiran, I hope you can hear me.
Can you hear, Yiran? Can you hear? Yeah, maybe. But use that one.
This is a question to Yiran and Professor Yu Hong. Hope you can hear me. Could you just quickly say yes?
Yes, yes.
Cool. Okay. I was just wondering about very briefly, what are, or did you study the issues of accountability in the whole City Brain project? I mean, the whole thing of this project being a half state, half private venture basically raises a few huge questions about what happens when there's errors, when there's abuse and all these things. And I was wondering how that will be dealt with legally. Who is accountable? Is it a state agency legally, or is it a private actor legally? Because we know, of course, that in Chinese law, it's very, there are very strict laws applying to private actors, especially when it comes to data protection. And there's very big gray area when it comes to state actors. So I wonder how that is dealt with. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. You can answer that.
Okay. Yiran, 你要不要先回答一下? Okay. Well, that's a very good question. I think that's really a brilliant question. What we have been presenting here actually is based on the empirical work for Chinese publication. So in that article, we are trying to follow the process of configuring the city brain, because the city brain is such a huge architecture and it is relevant to all of us on a daily basis. But at the same time, it is gigantic, and it doesn't feel like possible to disassemble these public kind of being for analytical purposes. So that's why we kind of trying to unbundle the process of forming the city brain. So what we find is more kind of detailed and precise places where the city brain actually taking place, including the industrial park, including what Yiran has mentioned, the negotiation between the municipal city and the corporate headquarters. So what we have find is less on the legal terms, but I think your question is really relevant, which is about the who remain accountable for the negative results. So what we have find is actually having something to do with COVID-19. So what we discovered is that there have been a lot of imprecise predictions coming out of the automatic decision making, and even the term automatic is not accurate, because many of the decisions are made at the lower level of the bureaucratic echelon rather than being automatically made by machines. So the human mistake combined with machinery errors kind of exaggerate and amplify the trouble caused for the population. So there has been tons of complaints that has to be expressed. And so what we discovered in the process, which turns out to be a surprise, interesting surprise for us, is that traditional media actually become part of these kind of futuristic architecture, while conventional understanding is the traditional media is being overtaken, replaced by the city brain, by all kind of automatic decision-making machineries. But what we find is that there are still kind of ways to keep touch with social realities on the ground, even though these two parts definitely are not on the equal footing. On the one hand, the city brain received a lot of capital, received a lot of attention. On the other hand, the traditional media has been kind of announced almost near death, near the demise. So I think that's a great question, but I cannot answer directly on legal terms. I think that question provides more a direction for future exploration. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? Jack? Maybe I take a couple if there are one, but Jack, you can.
Okay, yeah. First, thank you all for a wonderful sharing, and I learned a lot. So first, I have a quick follow-up question. Is because being based in Southeast Asia, we hear a lot about the city brain in Kuala Lumpur, which seems to be completely different from what you studied in Hangzhou. Because Kuala Lumpur city brain is mostly, almost, I would say maybe mainly, okay, about traffic, okay, automatic, real-time data processing to control the traffic lights, okay, in Kuala Lumpur. But it seems from what you just, the study you present, it even is so interesting, but it seems to have nothing to do with traffic. Okay, or is something, maybe this is you deliberately chose to focus more on 都市快报, okay, which seems to be, I'm not even sure if that is a smart city, okay, or when we talk about, because that the discussions, okay, Q&A, I think you can do it without, it's still human-generated answer, right? Those are not chat GP, kind of data, right? So this is just a follow-up, about clarifying your research design and rationale in comparison with the most well-known case outside China, which also involve Alibaba and the city government. And my second question also would be, I think for our last presenter, okay, I think is also relevant is here, is that can we learn about the the great digital divide? Okay, in what way, maybe this also has something to do with the intermediary, the packaging, is that usually if you look at it globally, the public-private partnership, when it involves an IT giant, right? And also on the one hand, and the local government around the world, in most countries, local government are poor. When they are being targeted, okay, for this kind of public-private partnership by IBM or Siemens or Alibaba, the local state actually was not very much, it's oftentimes they're captured by platform capitalism. So here in China, do we have a different kind of, right? Or maybe the answer is different when it's come to the city brain or the credit loan or the senior citizens. One of the most studied senior citizen going online project is called 老小孩网, right? The old kids, okay, from in Shanghai, but it was actually supported by 老龄委, okay, so the semi-government, okay, committee in Shanghai who are responsible for this welfare. So I just want to know more about what are the unique, okay, for the different studies you have conducted. What are the unique patterns that differ from this global pattern of a weak local state being targeted by the powerful platform corporations?
Just so Jesper had a question, and Winston, is it? Yeah. but I am very cognizant that we have 3 minutes left on this panel and have to go directly into the next panel. So I don't know, Jesper. Maybe let Winston ask a question. Okay.
Hi, I'm just referring to Michael's question online. If Haili, you could please respond to that. I think it's about how you define what elderly means. Is it defined by age? And I guess the relationship between digital savviness and age. And I just had a final question for Han Tao. Just wondering, in your fieldwork, is it how present is this sort of faking data, faking financial information? Is it possible to, do you have an idea of it, and is it possible to sort of analyze that on a wider scale? Thanks.
So maybe we can answer these quickly, so then we don't eat too much into the next panel.
Should I go first?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm responding to Michael's question. Yes, in our current research project, we mainly define the great digital divide based on age. So we actually purposely recruited our participants over the age of 65 and several between the age of 60 to 65. Yeah, and you have mentioned that some participants might be digital savvy. The situations we have encountered in our interviews is that many interviewees perceive themselves as quite digital savvy. Like before retirement, they might have a lot of experience of engaging with computers and other devices. But when it comes to using smartphones and some digital apps, they think they're not that savvy, like with their level of the computers. So they feel this part is super hard for them to learn, and they need to rely on their families and friends and also the social resources and the reports and the support a lot to strengthen their digital skills. So it varies depending on different what kind of digital devices they're engaging and what kind of specific functions they're referring to.
Yeah, someone else?
Okay, so I will just quickly respond to Jack's question about City Brain's functionality. It has multiple functionalities, and it keeps growing. So traffic is the initial design for City Brain, but then later on it takes up more interfaces and connect with more government departments, and therefore could make all kinds of automatic decision-making processes possible. And so it's a growing, sprawling architecture. And so that's for one thing. And the second thing is that 都市快报 is also engaged with traffic. So even though the City Brain is supposed to streamline the traffic control, but actually it's impossible to carry that out. There is a lot of detail-oriented issues that is on the ground, embedded with all the streets and the traffic situations that cannot be discovered by the automatic decision-making mechanism. So 都市快报 actually intervened in many cases to resolve the issues about parking and to negotiate with for example, the district regulators, and even to do the mathematical do the math to find out how many parking lots are still needed. So as you mentioned, it appears to be a smart design, but actually it requires a lot of human input, and it really requires a situated engagement with the city rather than a micro level kind of a God's eye surveillance machine. So that's my so that's how the sampling could be explained. And the pandemic definitely is a turning point when the traditional media and these city brain find each other. So that's why we put so much highlight on the pandemic. Yes.
Good. Chantal?
Yeah, I guess we don't have much time left, so I'm just gonna, so I guess the question for me is more about the kind of, like general, so like how, like, normal or wide is the practice of packaging agencies. So that one, I mean, based on my field observation, in like 2 province capitals, which is the first tier and second tier cities, there are a lot of packaging agencies, but it's really hard to interview them. It's even really hard to interview the bankers to talk directly about this topic. There is like a trust issue. I guess that's a problem of methodology, because I first approached my relative, and then my relative like took me to the bankers, and then they were like, I'm being honest with you, I work with packaging agencies, but do not say my name, do not say my bank. So that's all I can say for now, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I just would say, I mean, through all of these presentations, I think through other presentations we've seen today, I mean, there's this overarching issue of problems in society and the belief that kind of more data and then more integration through that data is able to solve these problems. Well, often, and I think in the case that you're talking about, Hantao, it's very obvious it doesn't actually address the underlying issue. More data doesn't necessarily help the problem as much. And the other second thing that I really noticed, and I think it's something that we're talking about all these 3 days, is the way in which these automated decisions are actually really manually, locally mediated so often, right? And the manual, local manifestation of the automated decision-making becomes the most important thing. So on that note, I will just say thank you, and we can move to the next panel.